Welcome all of you. This is the second in the series of discussions that we are having on Aadhaar, and we are talking to Colonel Mathew. And the first interview that we had has received a lot of positive inputs because people need to know what Aadhaar is all about. So when I talk to students, when I talk to a lot of people around who've actually enrolled themselves in Aadhaar, they actually are surprised about a lot of things around this particular scheme, because it's okay for people to provide their photographs, put their photographs in application because we can see people's faces, but then to get people to provide their biodata, including fingerprints or retinal scans, what happens to them? Where are these? Where is this data kept and managed? Who manages? And what happens? The vulnerability of big data. What about someone hacking into the systems and misusing our data? What about the state itself misusing the data? Imagine the state which is very vindictive and wants to involve someone in a certain crime, someone that it doesn't like. So what about the state using this data and putting the fingerprints in a crime scene? So there are a lot of issues around Aadhaar that we need to discuss, and we probably should have started this earlier, but better late than never. So welcome again, Colonel.
Thank you.
And today we would be discussing the data issue.
Yeah.
On not just who is collecting the data, but this very mechanism in which a billion people and more are being forced to divulge their personal data, including fingerprints and retinal scan. So why did it start, and what's happening with this data?
Okay, before that, I'll in the second episode or second in the series of interviews, first of all, I must thank you, Kshitij, for the opportunity to speak on camera on this. I'm very grateful to you for these questions and the opportunity. Let me start by first appealing to the Prime Minister himself and his cabinet and his government that, to my mind, they have been misled, to use a very polite word. They have been fooled, and I think they should introspect and check as to why this is being done and what is sought to be achieved, whether it will be achieved at all. It's not too late to scrap it, abandon the complete scheme, safeguard the data, and see what could be done to avoid damage by the use of the data already gathered. So that's my first appeal. The second thing I would like people to know and come forward and ask the politicians and the bureaucrats, etc., why are they doing this? Why are they harassing us? What do you seek to achieve? So I think both the public as well as the government and politicians must be involved in a dialogue to see where this is going and why it is being done. That said, I'd like to answer your question. I start with the enrolling process or the enrolling agencies. When this scheme started, the UIDA put out a requirement of people who will do the enrollment. They advertised and sought people to come forward with some kind of a proposal, and 209 companies were selected for this purpose, and their names were available on the UIDA website. This was actually, to use a Hindi word, a Kshitij of companies. There was a printing press, a tea estate, a stockbroker, a school, an education society, all kinds of people, money lenders, small software companies, all kinds of people came forward to do this because there was money in it. They were being paid about 250 to 300 or 350 rupees per enrollment. So when you look at thousands of people being enrolled, these companies could make money. But they were all small. Imagine a tea estate. How can a tea estate know anything about collection of data? And then people thought that they could also use it for crime. They could use it for fraud. So there were a lot of people infiltrated into it. I mean, small firms, or they set up firms. So the enrolling agencies were chosen without any check whatsoever of their background and whether they are capable of doing it. Some financial information was got. What is your turnover? And I don't even know whether anybody bothered to check with the banks whether these people are functional companies or not. Anybody could submit something and they were all chosen because there are all kinds of riff-raff companies. The second thing about this data gathering is, in fact, I went and saw the activity in Mysore in one of the enrolling agencies. I'll come to that a little later. There was absolutely no control or supervision of their functioning. And several frauds were reported, including the one at Mysore, which I went and witnessed. There was a person outside the agency sitting and on a fee of 300, 400 or 500 rupees, creating fake IDs. In the sense, somebody comes, gives us fingerprints, gives an address, a name, and so on. And I reported that to the then IT Secretary, Mr. Vidyasagar, and he went on dilly-dallying, and finally they were forced to file an FIR because I went on asking questions. The FIR, interestingly, was filed not against the enrolling agency, but against an auto rickshaw driver and his friends who were indulging in it. And this agency which was doing it, its name is Comat Technologies. It has been disbanded now. It was a company which, by a CAG audit, has defrauded the state of Karnataka for 54 crores of rupees. They were given a contract for biometric ration cards, and they siphoned out 54 crores of rupees without giving a single ration card or giving the data to the state government, and they have disappeared. Now that company was hired as an enrolling agency. When I said there's no check at all why these agencies were enrolled, see, when you talk of data leakage or misuse of data, there's a whole lot of garbage coming into this. This is the kind of companies which are gathering the data. And when I saw this at Mysore, the people who are operating these systems, they were contract employees, they are there today, gone tomorrow, yes. Nobody knows who's doing what. So it's an absolute chaos method of gathering the data, and that actually the UID admits in their contract, and I'll come to that when we discuss the contracts. This entire data is garbage. It cannot be used for any purpose whatsoever. The next thing, as I told you, frauds. These frauds, in fact, there's the latest fraud of a company using it for Ola or some such thing. Quath Technologies, it's known as.
Yeah, it's here in Bangalore.
It's here in Bangalore.
Yeah. The police have said that they have started an investigation on it. And so, which means also that data of people are with these private companies.
We don't know. It can be with private companies, it can be with the contract employees, it can be in different scanners, it can be in thumb drives, it can be anywhere. That's a given, that's obvious. But the more important thing is, if you're gathering garbage, what will you use it for? I mean, how can you use it? For buying train tickets or air tickets or opening bank accounts or anything? I mean, it's ridiculous to even imagine you can do. And the interesting thing is, I was talking about these FIRs. There are several FIRs. In Bangalore itself, in 2011, a company called Global ID Solutions, who was a subcontractor of one of the Alankeith group of companies. This Alankeith group of companies, there's a finance company, there's a stockbroker, there is a software company. They all belong to the same family. They are located in the same place in Jandavela Bagh in Delhi. Now they got the enrolling agency empanelment. The system itself is funny. These 209 companies, they were empaneled agencies, and the UIDA's registrars were supposed to choose from among them and follow a UIDA's protocol for this process. So these agencies functioned without a contract. Maybe they had a contract with the registrars. How all this marries into the UID system, nobody knows. Can you take, what action will you take against them? There's no contract, they are there. The registrar gives them some contract, whether they talk of the IT Act or anything, I do not know what the contract is. Anyway, there are FIRs filed. This Global ID Solutions, when I said there's no supervision, please understand how the fraud comes to light. It doesn't come to light in an audit or an inspection. In this particular case of Global ID Solutions, which the same police, High Grounds Police Station, is investigating this since 2011. 6 years have passed, and there's no charge sheet filed, nothing is known. How this fraud came to light was, this subcontractor, Global ID Solutions, were in turn subcontracting by taking a lump sum fee. So they took 2 lakhs from some other contractors and allowed them to collect the data. When a third party came, they asked for 5 lakhs. So this third party said, you are charging only 2 lakhs, why are you charging me 5 lakhs? So that party went and complained to the UIDA, and they came to know that this fraud is going on. They complained to the police raided them, and they had thousands of this fraudulent enrollment acknowledgement forms with them, with all the UIDA's logo and letterheads and so on. And we do not know what they did with all that. So how many illegals, how many militants, how many spies have come into the system, we don't know. There's nothing known, and there's no way. And there's even more interesting is, there is no corrective action at all to prevent these frauds. Because when I asked UIDA and in RTI, are you taking any action against this? They have said they keep on passing the RTI query round. No action is being taken. No, they don't even know. One UIDA office does not know what the other UIDA office is doing. And sting operations by Headlines Today, by Cobra Post, by CNN TV, all have revealed large-scale, rampant fraud going on by these agencies. In fact, next to the CBI office in Bhopal, the Headlines Today TV or Cobra Post TV revealed that fraudulent enrollments were going on. For small amounts of money, 500,000 rupees, a Nepali, a Bangladeshi, etc. could get it. Now, illegal immigrants and militants have been found with these UID acknowledgement numbers. A Khalistani militant was found with 2 of them. And here in the Bangalore sub-area headquarters, 7 illegal immigrants were caught with these so-called Aadhaar acknowledgements. And again, I raised an RTI query on that, and I asked them, how are these issued? Can you believe it? The UIDA replied saying that the enrollments are genuine. That is the reply given to me, that these are genuine enrollments. I don't know whether I got a copy of that here. Maybe if I have. No, I don't have the copy. But there's an RTI reply to me which said that the enrollment of the illegal immigrant is a genuine enrollment. That is the extent of ignorance these people have.
Okay. So this particular company, which has provided Aadhaar numbers to 7 illegal immigrants, and then the UIDI says that they were genuinely enumerated.
Yeah. Because, please understand, UID is right. That's why nothing is illegal in this. Because according to UIDI, any resident can get a UID number. Any resident. The resident can be a spy, can be a murderer, can be an illegal, he or she can be anyone. It doesn't matter. All that you are doing is capture their biometrics and their name and whatever address. Now if he gives a false address, how do you check? He can say, I was living there, now I am not living there any longer. I mean, it is a totally foolhardy scheme. You just cannot...
Isn't that very, very dangerous? That anyone... I mean, as it is, we have our own set of documents. We've got a birth certificates, we have passports, we have ration cards. We have PAN number which are linked to the bank accounts. Yeah. So now if the UID, he is providing identity cards to people who can be anyone from anywhere, isn't that dangerous?
Obviously. Now look at this. You see, when you mentioned passports, it is verified. The police come and verify. They ask your neighbors, how long has this person been living in this place? They take your details. A voter ID, somebody comes to your home and takes your details, and it comes back to that address which you are given. Now each one of these are physically verified. Whether it's a driving license, whether you are physically present, you go through a test, it comes back to your home, which you say where it is. Now in this, I have seen hundreds and thousands of these acknowledgements thrown all over the place. It goes to the post office. It's thrown all over the place. The danger is not merely somebody getting it, but the fact that this is all pervasive and this is accepted as something foolproof. That is the hoax. Because biometric technology is being used, which itself is a flawed and faulty one, as I mentioned in the last interview, because there a belief, an aura is created around it. It is foolproof. Therefore, you can use it for everything. That is the danger. And this foolproofness is being provided by foreign companies. In other words, the control rests with those companies.
Can you clarify this a little bit? Because people believe that the data has been collected by or is being collected by the government.
Yeah.
But it is also outsourced to private companies.
Yeah.
And some of these companies have a very dubious background. How does this, is it, how is this whole thing happening?
You see, that's what I'm saying. The government appointed a high-profile professional, successful professional, to market this. And it has been given a brand name like any other product which is to be sold. Aadhaar. So everybody talks of Aadhaar. I call it sham ID because it is that. It is no proof of ID at all. Because an identity is not just your biometrics. It is who you are. Are you a student? Are you married? Are you an Indian? Are you an African? Are you living in this place? Are you a criminal? What job you are doing? Are you educated? What are your skills? All this forms part of your identity. So identity is not just a name and a number and a few biometrics or a fake fictitious address. So this, the very calling it Aadhaar itself, which means foundation or basis, God knows basis of what? Basis of tomfoolery perhaps, itself is so funny. And when you talk about this data, who is collecting this data? People think government is asking for it because the income tax department asks for it. Then you go to some center. To whom are you giving this data? You are giving to some employee sitting there in front of a desktop or with a scanner. Can you verify that person's details? Can you ask that person to authenticate himself or herself? Do you know who is running? There have been corporation councillors running their own centers. There are all kinds of people who take this data. The employee who is taking that data and the machine which he is using may not even be an authentic machine. It could be a fraudulent machine which is just collecting data for 10 days and they disappear. I have taken photographs of abandoned machines in Indiranagar post office. There was a dispute between the enrolling agency and probably UID, they left, or the employees and the contracting company, they left the machines and all the applications, everything there and went away. So one of my friends took the photographs of that place and we it's filed along with my Supreme Court case. So that is the callousness with which this data is being gathered. So anybody can come in, that's why I called it garbage. And the people of this country and the government must understand that this garbage is being couched under the name of Aadhaar and is being used for all kinds of things. There is circular reasoning. I hope you understand what circular reasoning is. You try and prove B with A and you prove A with B. Now take PAN card. They want to deduplicate PAN cards. Now in the application form for UID or Aadhaar, PAN card is one of the identity documents. So if I use my PAN card as an identity proof of ID for enrolling into Aadhaar, how can I deduplicate the PAN card using Aadhaar? I mean, it is some of them.
So theoretically, it is possible for a person with two PAN cards to actually also make two UIDs.
Yes, not theoretically, practically also, because how can you see the biometrics itself is not proof. A person like me at my age, almost 80 years, my biometrics is not, it's noisy. If I put it and they try to capture it next time, you can't. In fact, when I visited the Mysore Enrolling Center, they are supposed to capture minimum 50% of the data, of your biometric data. In many cases, they are not able to. So then the chap presses the hand and does all this, and finally around 25% or so, he okays it. Now, a 25% or 10% data captured like this of a child or an elderly person or a manual laborer it is of no use, because it can never be used for deduplication or authentication. It cannot be used because the data is insufficient for that purpose. And why nobody is asking? All the politicians are silent, the media is silent, even this newborn babies, they do not have any biometrics at all. And the paper which publishes this, it does not ask any questions of the people who are giving them this, the government who is giving them this. The UIDA is publishing this fact.
I mean, there's also an ethical issue to it. I mean, imagine newborn babies in hospitals being
given a number.
Yeah, given a number, their biometrics integrated. Yes, and I mean, what about if the child grows up to be 18 and asks her parents, why did you, divulge my information? I did not want to give my information out. I mean,
if I were the parents, I'll tell the child there was no information at all. They didn't get any information from you because you had no fingerprints.
But this is entirely grotesque, isn't it? I mean, it's
absolutely.
We did say that it is Orwellian. You spoke about 1984. And now we are in a situation where 1.2 billion people are being forced by hook or crook by the government, by connecting them to every service that's available, whether it is booking of tickets or filing of IT returns, ration card, all kinds of things, and forcing them to to divulge their information.
I may ask you a counter question. Why do you think they're doing this? And what are they doing? What is the government doing? I would like the public who see this, or the government officials who see this, to think on this question of mine. Why is the government doing it? The officials may not know. They get instructions. The ministers may not know because the Prime Minister or the Prime Minister's office must be telling them, go and do this. What is being done? What is being done and why is it being done? If you think deeply on this, what is being done is they are trying to allocate unique numbers to everyone in this country and force people to go and get that number. Now, what do they do with that number? The reason is that somebody who has no clue of IT thinks that if we number people and use that number for every human activity, then we can probably track them or use that data for various purposes. They think they can do that. But anybody who has ever used IT will understand that this just cannot be done in such large-scale operations. People die, people are born, people get diseases, they change jobs, they move around. By this number, what will you do?
No, I would actually be very hopeful and happy if it doesn't work. I would actually be very concerned if it worked 100%. In which case, my biodata is with the establishment, and they can use it, they can misuse it, they can track me anywhere, all through my life. And that's much more dangerous than when it's not working, because I would feel that for me, it would be a very blind understanding that it is only a business proposition. I mean, I feel it's a surveillance state, the concept of a surveillance state, and that every last person will be surveilled by the government. The movement, the activities, the expenditure, everything. And so they can actually use the data that's available against that citizen whenever they require.
Yes, you are absolutely right. In fact, in the first interview I had mentioned, there's no doubt about the fact that this is a surveillance tool. The second thing is, you said you'll be happy if it doesn't work. But by the time it is realized that it doesn't work, it would have done a lot of damage. A number of people would have suffered. There would be people who have not got rations. Their family would have gone hungry for a number of days. They are made to run from pillar to post. They are unable to get their rations. People are unable to get their jobs. There's 125 days of employment under the Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme. People are unable to sit for examinations. All these damages would have happened. People would have suffered by the time this is called off. More importantly, a lot of people would have entered into this country who are spies, who are militants, and that is one aspect. The other aspect is, since this entire data, in my view, and I'll prove that by the contract in the next episode, this entire data is being handed over to foreign intelligence agencies. Now the danger there is that they use this data for various purposes. They can use it for infiltration. They can use it for recruiting informants. They have your bank account, they have your PAN number, they have your biometrics. They can open a bank account in your name or in the name of a government official or a minister or politician in a foreign country, and then blackmail them, hey, you got so much of money in your bank account in Cayman Islands or some such thing. So in fact, the former US, or I think his current CIA chief, John Brennan, is on record in an interview stating, we use such data for recruiting foreign official informants. So there's a lot of danger.